Hey there, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. Before the video starts, I want to let you know that if you like it, to leave a like and a comment down below. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel and click the little bell icon to be up to date with my latest content, as well as joining the notification squad or wolfification squad like this pack legend here. Thanks for your support, and enjoy the video.
The shiny sedan was parked halfway up the long, private dirt driveway. The driver within protectively watched as the small figure trod ahead, tugging a cotton candy pink wagon with his tiny wheels squeaking and cracking the grit as they rolled onwards. The bundled-up young girl waved proudly at her mother. She was almost 10 and wanted a bit of independence since she was nearly reaching the big double digits. So her parents made a compromise, with allowing her precious child a bit of legroom, but remained within safe viewing distance. The girl glanced over her shoulder to make sure her very important cargo was still stacked neatly upon each other while making her way to her determined destination. The child raised her head as she scanned the extensive tree lines in both sides of the path. The enormous evergreens seemed to be tickling the clouds, and loud knocks of hungry woodpeckers in search of bark-dwelling insects were ricocheting amongst the towering timber. Normally, being in the woods wasn't such a big deal for the girl. After all, the town of Normandy Village was just a fraction of the space compared to the neighboring North Woods. Therefore, she was acclimated to all this nature stuff. Her mother had spoken of a severe winter storm approaching, as it often did so in January. The girl wrinkled her nose at the thought. Sure, wintry weather never bothered her, and snow days and snowball fights were super fun. But what wasn't fun was when it all gyrated into a blizzard. Too much snow always meant no. No outside, no playing, no friends. Not to mention she couldn't see the sun with all this incoming cloudiness. The girl couldn't resist, and gave the gray, overcast sky a tongue raspberry. All this cold gloominess was making her feel, well, gloomy. The child looked ahead at her chosen residence, and decided it was both pretty and strange. Or rather, pretty strange entirely. The ligneous exterior Cape house had lots of bright windows, and a stone brick chimney expelling large quantities of vaporized heat, which did leave a feeling of coziness. However, despite the width of the home not being very wide, it was very tall. Even the front door, to where the child was headed while she was observing the surreal surroundings. Nevertheless, she nodded to herself. Regardless of the girl's family's recent move to Normandy Village, she was already the top Gardenia Girl Scout in her group, and was sure she would successfully sell her wagon's worth of freshly boxed cookies to this lone resident. It was such a good streak of luck that the child had overheard her mother talking on the phone. Not that she was listening in on purpose. A good Girl Scout never eavesdropped. It just so happened that Mom was talking to Auntie Rose in the kitchen about the very rich lady who paid to demolish and reconstruct the isolated house at the edge of the forest, which always just so happened that the girl really needed the glass of OJ from the fridge. Having no neighbors must be so boring. The girl's frown reversed. What better way to brighten anyone's dreary day than eating lots of cookies? She pondered if the homeowner could eat cookies. Old ladies normally don't have many teeth, or if any. She could only guess that the residence was someone's sweet granny with only a clatter of mewing kitties or a flock of singing caged canaries for company. The child shrugged her small shoulders dismissively. The granny could always dunk the cookies. That's what milk was for. The Girl Scout finally made her way past a modern white Jeep that was parked close to the house and reached a wooded porch. It was decorated with a wicker chair, and the girl glanced at the lone piece of furniture. Strange. It wasn't a rocking chair. Grannies usually love those wobbly ones. She came to a still at the rim of the lofty portico. Undeterred, the girl held in a cold, clouded breath and boosted her cookie-packed coach over the thick stoop, saving her wagon from losing another wheel again. She placed it down and wiped her fuzzy yellow mittens together. Milk was great for strong bones, too. The Girl Scout brushed her pants of any stubborn, sticky leaves or twigs, flattened the green trim floral patterned silver sash over her puffy coat, and finished off with making sure her sleek black braid was straight. A good Girl Scout never stops looking super presentable for customers. The girl fisted a mitten at the high door, but kept it in the air. She swore in the corner of her brown eyes that a flash of gold had swooshed from the inside of the window pane. Also, there was muffled, but a brash-sounding grumbling from within the home. The child puckered her bottom lip in consideration. Maybe the grandmother had bad knees. Her smile reached her small ears. This granny will need lots of extra cookies to cheer her up. The Girl Scout continued on her mission and knocked 4 times, causing the grumbling to suddenly stop. The girl shushed her sneakers from rocking on the squeaky boards and put her shoulders back, keeping her smile full and wide. The dimples were always the kicker. She heard shooing sounds, then moments later the high door was opened from the inside. Yes? The girl's excited expression altered into utter bewilderment, for she was not welcomed by a gray-haired granny wearing a shawl and a warm face surrounded by kitties and birdies. But instead, the child was received by a sandy-blonde woman with a cold countenance on her fair features, standing unaccompanied between the vast doorway. The girl blinked in bewilderment. Was opposite day actually a real day? The confused child had to crane her neck in order for her gaze to meet the half-lidded ones of the woman whom was just as tall as her father when he wasn't wearing his hidden heel extensions in his shoes. Truly, the girl was not expecting the lady to be younger. She was also pretty, with loose, curly hair covering half of her back, and amber eyes that went well with the bright orange sweater she wore. While observing, the girl idly remembered that she'd left her favorite dress-up doll on her school desk. Abrupt snapping of the air took the child out of her missing toy reverie to blink at the awaiting woman put her hand down after she had gotten the girl's attention. "Hello, can I help you, Sonny?" drolly inquired the woman with a voice that was soft and raspy at the end. The child blinked. Sonny wasn't her name, but she decided to go with it, though the town wasn't overly large. A good Girl Scout never gives their secret identities away. "Good afternoon, ma'am." The woman arched her right eyebrow. "Good afternoon, miss." The girl almost wiped her small brow from avoiding that mistake again. "I'm with the Gardenia Girl Scouts." She proudly swayed her open mittens to her treasured sash, which crossed over her white winter coat and stitched over with several big badges. "For safety, a good Girl Scout never gives out her name, so Sonny is fine." The girl adjusted her overly fuzzy, concealed ears. "I bet you want to call me Sonny because my yellow earmuffs remind you of a sunny day." The woman casually clicked her tongue under her palate. "They remind me of my fried breakfast this morning." While the girl blinked at the nonchalant odd answer, she noticed that the woman gave the impression of being very tired, and apparently tired of the cold as she pulled up the sweater's thick turtleneck nearly up to her chin after pulling down the rolled-up sleeves, quickly making use of her thumb holes to cover half of her fair-skinned hands, which reminded the Girl Scout of the distressed sounds that she had perceived beforehand. "Are you all right, miss? I hope you weren't crying earlier." Though a good Girl Scout should never lie, she kind of hoped the woman was. The woman felt and rotated her stained shoulders separately and sighed deeply. "I wasn't crying for anyone. I was complaining to no one." In hindsight, she saw a pair of 50-pound metal weights across the room by the wall. Assuming the woman had just put those huge, heavy-looking things down, her mouth gaped in surprise while gesturing to them. "Wow, you lift those dumbbells?"
You must be real strong. Don't they make your arms feel sore? A brisk of wind ruffled the woman's long bangs in her vision, and she brushed them aside. Not as sore as standing out in this freaking blasted cold. Don't worry, miss. I've got this under control. The Girl Scout was already reaching into her sash-matching fanny pack for such quick emergencies, and forgetting that prize mending aid badge. The exuberant child pulled out what appeared to be quite a lot of God's wrap, making the woman shake her head as she pressed the bridge of her cold pink nose. Sweet, swaddled baby Jesus. The roll was so thick it could possibly be used to mummify someone. Or hang someone. A good Girl Scout's always prepared to help. The child held up the infinite ball of gauze and pulled out a lengthy strand. Just point to your pain, miss. The woman unscrewed her eyelids and slowly removed a partly covered slender hand from her face to direct an index finger at the center of her visiting aggravation. The Girl Scout just mauled at the pointing finger. I don't think I can make a sling that small. She smiled wide. But I'm sure I have a tiny bandage for your fingers in my pack somewhere. Before the oblivious child could finish going through her bottomless belt storage, the woman sighed again, closing her front door behind her to prevent any more Arctic drafts from blustering within her home. Listen, kid, I'm Dandy. Just please tell me why you're here so I can get warm again. By her customer's tiresome tone, the Girl Scout knew she must get to work and fast. She zippered in her aid supplies, pulled out a pamphlet, and beamed a grin wide enough that caused even more dimples. A good, successful Girl Scout can never have too many dimples. I'm selling cookies for the Gardenia Girl Scouts. The cookies are our very own brand. We have many yummy favorites. Chocolate chip, double chocolate chip, triple chocolate chip, fudge dip chocolate chip, double fudge dip chocolate chip, triple fudge dip chocolate chip. Changed the recipes, have we? The woman cut in. The girl nodded happily. Yep, chocolate is our customer's favorite. The woman glanced away. Probably because chocolate is so goddamn addictive. And also we have double stuffed choc. The girl warned off her presentation and looked at the woman. Excuse me, miss? You know about our cookies? So you must be a wonderful customer. Eagerly, the Girl Scout skipped aside, waving her arms and mittens at her revealed wagon like a game show model was in the child's future. Then she opened her leaflet, which already contained an order form and a clip ballpoint. The delighted girl clicked her pink pen already. So what would you like? The woman sucked in and let out a long, misty breath. Can you guess what I'm thinking right now, Sonny? The girl chewed her bottom lip. How many cookies you like to buy? A low shake of a head. Of why I opened my door. The child hesitated. Because it's the polite thing to do? The woman gave a steady nod. Exactly. That's why I asked if I could help you after you had knocked. Yes, miss. So, she raised her pen and formed readily. Name your flavor. The woman blinked once. Irrelevant. With a slight canter of her head, the Girl Scout returned the single blink. Sorry, miss. I don't think we have that kind. With a low smile, the tall woman folded her hands behind her while tilting forward to be more at the child's eye level. The young girl couldn't help but step back. The woman's small smirk reminded her awfully too much of her math teacher whenever she gave an incorrect number. Do you know who I am, Sonny? The child made another nod. Yep, you're the rich lady that likes a whole bunch of privacy. The two briefly scanned around the house's only neighbors, Pine and Spruce. I mean, do you know my name? I take it that you're new in Normandy Village. The girl shook her head, then bowed at once. The woman laid a half-revealed hand under her turtleneck. My name is Summer Bree, and I've been living here for 9 years. 9 is how old I am, the cherry girl mentioned. Jinx. Anyway, Gardenia Girl Scouts have been visiting here for that long, and do you know how many boxes I have bought within that span? I don't know, the girl smiled. A bunch? The woman popped her mouth. None. I'm sorry, kid, but I can't chew your Girl Scouts rock candy. The small child's lips tugged downwards. But they're cookies. Sure could have fooled me, Sonny. Haven't you tried the product that you're selling?
The disappointed child held up a mitten as if taking an oath. Nope, because our Gardenia Girl Scout cookies are only for the good of our community. And their dentistry. Excuse me? Nothing. Summer stopped rubbing her jaw while straightening her back. But just because there's no sale doesn't mean I don't support your organization. I give you scouts a nice donation every year during the holidays. And since Christmas was last month, I've just done my good deed. She gave a curt bow. So I apologize, but no thanks, kid. I'll pass. Again. Good day. Summer turned halfway, and when she reached the doorknob of her beckoning warm house, she heard a small sniffle behind her. Oh, come on. A glimpse over her shoulder, and just as she predicted, the shimmering wide-eyed child was pouting her bottom lip. Please, Miss Bree, won't you buy cookies from me? The girl grinned inside. If the dimples failed, go with the second kicker. Rhyming sad puppy dog. Please, kid, don't cry. With a jaded groan, Summer swung around. What the? The woman's thin eyebrows had curved upwards from the child clinging a children's novel to her sash. The book seemingly had materialized out of the cold, thin air. What's with the pop-up ads, Sonny? Cookie sales goes towards more books for the Gardenia Scout Library Wing, sniffed the small reply. And you girls have a library wing because of me. This book's my favorite. The child stroked the paperback tenderly as if it were a beloved kitten. Have you ever read this one, Miss Bree? The woman scanned the book's peculiar illustrated front cover of a striped-shirted boy in the midst of an eccentric-looking beasts and beings, while the title surrounded by two interlaced snakes. She loosely remembered her sister reading it years ago, and shrugged indifferently. I actually prefer nonfiction. Fantasy stories are never ending for me. Summer trailed off when the young girl began to tilt her head, her big brown orbs glistening and her tiny lip quivering now and again. The woman mentally palmed her face. She wasn't falling for the tearjerker routine. But, despite her direct decline to buy, this persistent Gardenia Girl Scout remained hopeful that she would make a sale. And Summer knew if anyone could relate to perseverance, it was her. No worries, Sonny. I'll buy some. Summer reassured. She jerked her head in the direction of the awaiting parked car in the near distance. Before your waterworks gets Madame Mom Jeans to thinking I'm swearing at you. The child instantly stopped sniffling and wiped her dry nose. Jeans isn't our last name. Ugh, come on, kid, pleaded the chilled woman, impatiently rubbing her arms and tapped her winter slippers. It's freezing out here. Do you want to make a sale or not? For a moment, the girl stared up at the tall, grimacing, grouchy lady, wondering why the woman's sweater was orange rather than green, and her choice of housing wasn't a mountaintop or a trash can. However, when the Girl Scouts directive came to full focus, her down appearance lifted in an instant. The child zestfully zipped in her handy book prop into her pack, and with the little order form and pen in her mittens once again, flashed a toothy smile. What would you like, Miss Bree? Just one box, please. Summer responded, reaching the back of her blue yoga denims pocket for her wallet. Oh, the child drawled. What kind? Ginger snaps if you have 'em. I hope they aren't fudge-covered, chuckled Summer, nor require an entire quart of milk. And when the two exchanged product and payment, the woman's genuine smile faded from watching the child's curved mouth fall flat and was holding the bill like she was just given a detention slip. Sonny? You've succeeded in your quest. What's wrong with you? Disappointed sight stayed on the bill. That's all? Summer gawked incredulously. That's all? Kid, you should be happy that I caved and am buying from you. She tapped the center of the crisp new bill in the girl's mittens. And that's a 20. For one box, that's one heck of a tip right there. The child's face went impassive. A good Girl Scout never takes bribes. A donation's not a bribe. The woman hushed harshly. Knowing very well the girl's mother was still in yelling earshot, Summer forced a closed grin and waved her head at the sedan. No salute back. The girl marked her order with one stroke of her ballpoint, and after securing them and the money into her pack, she gave a short, cloudy huff. I hiked all this way for one stinky sale.
I really wanted to sell all my cookies today and be top Gardenia Girl Scout of the Year. Summer stared down at the little filled wagon. There must have been 100 cartons strapped onto it. Sonny, why in God's name would I need all those jawbreak cookies? 'Cause you live by yourself and buying all my cookies would make you happy. Buying all your cookies would make my dentist happy, the woman retorted. And I'm already happy, see? Summer flashed a sealed smile pointedly, and after a brief silence, the child swirled her eyes. Yep, sorry, Miss Bree, I'm not buying that. The child knew she shouldn't be upset to someone who supports her troops, but gosh golly, there were so many darn pebbles still in her sneakers from that gosh darn path. A good Girl Scout never cusses. The very displeased child lifted her wagon off from the porch, and as she picked up the handle, she faced her glaring cross customer. Don't mind me asking this, Miss Bree. The girl glanced at the single wicker chair again. But what's a lady living all alone in these spooky woods anyways? It's weird. A gruff, exasperated exhale of steam shot out of Summer's nostrils. Thankfully, the woman stayed composed, locking in her extremely non-child-friendly thoughts from the ungrateful girl. Drumming a finger on the paid box of baked goods, Summer sauntered to the end of the porch, knelt down, and stared at the young girl through narrowed lids, prompting the child to gulp. The woman's unwavering stare could really outmatch her teacher's. 2 reasons, Sonny. Summer leisurely held up 2 fingers. Firstly, it's my life. Secondly, it's pointless to ask. Understand? The nervous child darted her sights to contemplate. 'Cause it's none of my business? Amber irises glinted as full lips coiled into a deepened smirk. Smart cookie. Summer handed over the box to the finally wordless girl. Have a cookie. The woman resumed walking to her door, pulled and took 2 steps in the open entrance, looking over her shoulder. My treat. Her grin dropped. Please. The Girl Scout blinked widely as the door hastily closed with a kick, and she stared down at the paid cookies in her mittens. With another annoyed little huff of air and a shrug, she opened the box. A good Girl Scout never eats the community's cookies. But these were her cookies now. The scowling girl tossed the open cookie carton on top of the new ones, and as she towed her still very full wagon back to her mother's car, the child held up a spiced cookie. But after her earful bite, she froze, fully realizing that a whole cow could not make enough milk to dunk these cookies with. The child carefully poked the tip of her tongue to the side of her sore upper gum and caught something. The Girl Scout slowly opened her mitten, and her eyes went even more agape. Yep, that tooth wasn't supposed to come out yet. Later that evening, as the sun began its departure from the heavy opaque clouds, with the last remnants of its light declining across the sloped Cape house, the woman within watched the countdown of the timer on her microwave. Inside, the home was basically hushed, excluding the voices of the newscast on the television in the next room. The house was modest, as it was from the outside, no more than 1,600 square feet, consisting of a parlor, a dining room, 2 small bathrooms, 2 halls, 3 bedrooms, with the downstairs chamber turned into a study, and the biggest areas were the kitchen and the storm cellar. The woman was a minimalist, so the residence was open and quaint. No extravagant statues or oversized vases, just the required furniture, an enclosed fireplace, some framed photos, and wall-to-wall gray carpeting throughout most of the pastel periwinkle interior. Both bathrooms were soft white and had gray tiles. Some hues, yet pleasantly equivalent. The Cape house was practically reconstructed for the 15-feet ceilings. Its present homeowner didn't require a lot of living space, but did not wish to feel cramped either. She always pondered if she would have felt differently if she were shorter like her sister. Summer had never been overly close with her mother. She loved her as any daughter would, but in the past things were hard for Elena. And it showed on Summer's upbringing. Her mother conceived when still in high school.
Summer never met the guy whom Helena had that regrettable fling with, and, under no circumstances, wishes to. So consequently, her mother ended up quitting school for her. Later, when Summer turned 10 and life became more stable, her mother remarried to Michael, a very good man who worked with her in the same office. A year later, they had Autumn. And in her tween and teen years, Summer was elated with being a big sister, acting as a mentor and helping Autumn learn to read and ride a bicycle. Although Summer rarely visits her family, the woman still made sure to put on her happy face and kept connected through calls and video chats. Summer did get accustomed to calling Michael as dad, and although she may not have that super glue motherly-daughterly bond with Elena, the love was still there. Summer did admire her for the past sacrifices and for naming her children after the seasons of when they were born. And Summer indeed loved warm breezes and sunny beaches. Yet, here she was, living in upper Minnesota where 0 digits were the norm for this harsh glacial season. Over a decade ago, the former Delaware woman was constantly out in the open. Younger Summer loved shopping and traveling to the shore. Now, she was continuously indoors, isolated, and solitary. And older Summer was completely fine with it. And she needed to be this way. The closest neighbors were several miles away. However, her cape was still close enough to contemporary living and had full electric, plumbing, and internet availability. Summer may have become a hermit, but she definitely wasn't a cave woman. The microwave finally alerted Summer that its duty to heat up the hot cocoa was complete, with a light ring. And she carefully removed the steaming mug and its plate and sat down on the padded wooden stool by the marble kitchen island. But before she took a drink, that reviled and recalled icy feeling of tiny spiders prickled under her skin. Even with wearing cotton socks and slippers, the woman's blood was chilled to the bone, probably from hearing the televised weathercast of the imminent snowstorm that was supposed to fall later on during the night. Summer groaned to herself. The numbing cold was bad enough to deal with. But snow was far worse than anything. Her mother and stepfather were mind-boggled. They could not understand why their sun-loving daughter, who complained about a single snowflake touching her scalp, would ever wish to reside permanently in one of the coldest areas in the States. Summer simply told her parents that it was obligatory for her to be there for Robert and Marilou. Half-heartedly, her parents agreed. They were wise not to disagree with their daughter on that matter. They can only beat a dead horse so much. Summer's explanation was relatively true, for the woman did adore the older couple. They lived in town, and since the near beginning they had been surrogate parents to her. They essentially raised Summer when her mother had worked night shifts and had gotten her GED. The sweet, quirky twosome had always been the devoted and reliant, especially Robert. He was her rock in all this. Marilou was supportive in her own way as well, eventually agreeing with Elena and Michael for Summer to just let go and be happy. Summer assured them all that she was, and she hated herself for that retarded, reiterating lie. Once a momentary inhale of air to relax was released, Summer rested her elbows and took a savoring sip of the cocoa. The warm and creamy beverage dismissed the woman from her shivers, while her eyes idly wandered along the wide kitchen's brick walls and dark cabinets. The sweet taste brought her mind back to the Gardenia Girl Scouts selling all those chocolate coat everything cookies. Granted, the child turned a bit insolent when not getting her way as she had wanted, but Summer wasn't less than rude either. The woman sighed harshly. God, by no means she used to be so bitter or snappish to strangers, especially towards kids. She enjoyed joking on occasion, like most people, but was never so damn wry. Perhaps it was from her chosen seclusion, or having a golden nest egg to live on. Before the ex-social worker moved out of her condo in Delaware, Lady Luck had gifted her with a winning lottery ticket. After taxes, Summer's second jackpot win was $1.2 million. It was well more than enough to quit working at the nursing home, but only after Dante, a favorite resident to whom she referred to as her honorary grandfather, had passed away from liver disease. Since his son was distant, she wanted to make certain he had received the best of care,
and being an employee meant she could be sure of that. Summer let a small smile grace her face in his memory. She still missed all those games of blackjack and chatting about classic sports cars. As the woman absently stared between the partially closed vertical blinds of the kitchen window, a long exhale escaped her damp lips when she remembered the reason for her snippy persona. A decade of anguish can really change a person. Ah, fuck, not again. Another shudder. In spite of the cocoa, fresh logs on the hearth, and her thermostat jacked up to 76 degrees Fahrenheit, Summer's body remained uncomfortably cold. She often had nights like this, some more than others, and unfortunately this was one of those nights. Summer glanced at her left hand. 2 of her fingers were sandwiching a dry erase marker. The woman hadn't smoked since college, when term papers stressed her out beyond reason. When she started working at the nursing home, however, and had seen the gruesome effect of some residents using electric voice boxes over dark holes in the center of their throats, the previous caretaker hadn't lit a cigarette since. But still, whenever her nerves had gotten to her, that old, deep-rooted urge to take one of those tempting nicotine drags would gust into her subconscious. Marilu offered some organic red wine or herbal capsules to help soothe the younger woman's nerves, but she'd always decline. Summer swore to God himself that she would certainly not smoke again, nor take the slightest drink or any kind of sleep aid. She wanted her mind and body to permanently stay well and be well aware. Besides, she already had a fixation forever frozen into her core. Having enough of the wishful yet hateful craving, the woman flipped the marker away, only to hear it slide on the white tiles. She didn't need to see how it was moving, and shook her head with a short snicker. The Girl Scout may have been right about the extent of her customer's happiness, but was wrong about her living completely alone. Small dark sable paws scuttled over the writing implement to swipe it, and a few seconds later, vertical pupils dilated to captivated circles as a brown speckled back arched before another pounce on the inanimate prey. "Posy," murmured Summer as she bent down to pick up the marker and reattach it to the reusable notepad on the island table. No inky paws again. With a tiny trill that cooed like a fledgling dove, a multi-shaded furrowed feline leapt on the table and rested her haunches with a blotched tail loosely curling around herself. Her fluffled fur from the previous open-door draft was finally smoothing down. Being raised as an indoor cat, Posy was secure and knew better than to venture out of the safety of her warm indoor territory. Besides having an aquarium during her youth, Summer didn't have any other pets growing up, and as an adult, she never acquired one due to being so busy and bustling around before everything. Not too long ago, she felt occupied enough to not need an animal companion, let alone a pet that required their own cleaned-out toilet box. But Robert's wife felt differently, and while tending to her flower beds, she had found the tiny tortoiseshell kitten, barely 6 weeks old, mewing plaintively for comfort in the middle of the posies. Hence the name. Mary had asked Summer if she could adopt the kitten because she was scared of their Doberman, but Summer concluded with Blitz's fear of just a timid cottontail visiting the yard, it was the other way around. Marilu was exultant that she agreed to take the young feline in. The older woman had been worried about Summer's cut-off living arrangements, and had hoped the company would put a spark in her life. And the domestic shorthair unconditionally did just that. Posy had converted into Velcro. Nearly 3.5 years later, the cat had to be in the same room with her owner, or at the very least at the same level of the house. For Summer, Posy was a visual term for prying and clingy. It was a must for the cat to know what Summer was doing, and to rest with her every evening. Her owner firmly assumed the cat was afraid of being abandoned again. However, when Summer would awake from another ruthless night terror, she would find the cat cuddled against her, the tortoiseshell's tiny paws clasped to her arm like a speckled teddy bear. Therefore, she also seemed to always sense when her owner required her the most. As the woman tried to relax and nurse her hot cocoa, Posy patted the center of the table, tilting her head at the notepad, slowly outstretching a front paw towards her appointed toy. "Don't, Posy." The low tone of her owner meant she wasn't pleased, but neither was she. Her pounce game was interrupted. Posey sniffed a brown nose at the oval metal shakers, focusing on the non-sneezy one. And when the woman took another sip of her drink, she heard a small clang on the ceramic floor. With a passive pucker and deadpan glance at the spilled, released shaker, Summer calmly stood up and went to the cupboards. Much to the cat's dismay, her owner returned with another salt shaker, a square-shaped wooden one that could not roll or easily pop open. Sitting back in her stool, the woman continued on with her cocoa, briefly holding up a centered finger at the foiled feline. Posey let out a small huff. Not caring about the woman's middle claw, the cat flicked a dark-tipped ear, detecting something negative about her owner. Well, more negative than normally. The cat raised herself and proceeded to stretch her brown back toes, which stood out from the other 3 sable paws. At least, her right hind foot matched her chin and underside. Tortoiseshells were truly the tie-dye queens of the feline kingdom. After the slow limb incline, Posey continued to pad towards her owner, while aforementioned owner was enjoying the last drops of her chocolate brew. Posey, I kinda don't want any whiskers poking in my— Posey! The cat clung a paw over Summer's wrist, pulling it closer to her small muzzle. Not wanting to spill the last of her mug, the woman returned it to its porcelain plate and rubbed the cat's cheek. Fine. You win. Happy? Posey emitted a tiny chirp. Despite being a 12-pound adult cat, her mew was the perfect imitation of a squeak toy or a very angry puffy frog. Posey pushed her round head into the woman's soft palm with gold eyes blinking slowly, and most precisely, assuredly, and somehow Summer just seemed to know what the cat was inkling. Mommy's not happy. Posey, I'm fine, just let me be. I'll help Mommy. Posey! And the no-boundaries feline nestled in the woman's lap. In a second, the cat lay on her side with purrs vibrating from her throat in encouragement. With a relented respire, the woman cradled the cat to her chest. When Posey felt her underside getting that wonderful tummy rub, front paws needed the air in full triumph. Summer had to read about tortoiseshells. They were extremists. Either they were very independent or forwardly affectionate with their owner. And the louder purring after the nose nuzzle to the belly told Summer she had definitely adopted the latter. The bubbling domestic shorthair was content. She was not only able to cheer up her owner, but be caressed too. Life was good. You must be where I always am, don't you, Nosy Posey? With a small squeaky trill, Posey complied with a pat to her owner's nose. I always gotcha, Mommy. Shortly after dinner, Summer climbed up the carpet-covered stairs, and Posey, of course, shouted along to prepare to rest for the night. Summer removed the plush pajamas from its hanger on the master bedroom's door, and walked into the attached bedroom to wash up. Posey was already doing so. The cat was perched on the bedroom's center window ledge, licking her front paw all over to reach around her ears. Reluctantly, the woman crossed her hands over her sweater to pull it over her head. Her fair skin had goosebumps lined all over her toned arms and back. Summer hated getting undressed, especially when she felt particularly extra cold, like now. But soon enough, she'd be swaddled in PJs and sharing warmth with her torty bear under a cozy comforter in the fully lined full bed. Standing in front of the sink, still clad in her stretched denims and navy sports bra, the woman swayed her hair to the side and returned her reflection's observation. She wore a bit of eye makeup and lip balm so her lips would not chap. At 32, the woman's self-esteem wasn't as it once was, so it abetted with her confidence to tidy her face, just a tad. Summer was in quite the good shape, with regular workouts, and could easily pass for her mid-20s if it were not for her weary eyes. It wasn't from crying. She hasn't cried since. Gradually the woman turned around, staring at the small of her slender back, and as she did, a wistful smile tugged at her lips. She almost felt complete with the little addition. Summer tossed the light locks over her shoulders, covering half of what she was admiring. Younger Summer never let her curls grow past her shoulders. Older Summer grew it out just for the sake of feeling warmer. She readied to reach the washcloth, but noticed traces of salt crystals under her short but well-kept nails. Older Summer couldn't recall the last time she wore polish. Younger Summer always put on a fresh coat every single week. She glanced through her bedroom's entrance to see Posey still at work, with her after-dinner grooming, gracefully lifting a hind leg towards her face, with black and pink splotched pads separating her as her tongue addressed between the little digits. Before Summer had time to sweep up the spilled salt, the cat had to frisk through the mess to make indoor swirly snow prints. The woman chuckled with another shake of its head. Crazy-ass cat. Summer continued looking underneath her nails, and a hopeful thought came to mind. Younger Summer was never superstitious. Older Summer begged to differ. The woman wriggled her salty nails into the palm of her hand, and with her right fingertips pitched the white grains over her shoulder. Maybe soon she wouldn't need to be haunted in her dreams anymore. The faucet handle was rotated halfway, and while Summer waited for the tap to reach a soothing temperature, she was surprised that her cat hadn't come romping in to try to perch on the sink to bat the running water. She turned to see the tortoiseshell had stopped grooming to window watching. Posey, are you finally tired of trying to stop the water snake from escape? Summer's voice and hands jolted in place. Her sharp jerk had turned the valve until the abundant stream was escalating out of the drain. With a face that matched the whites of her widespread eyes, Summer rushed in the master bedroom to find Posey crouching stock still. Her back fur and tail were bristled from surprise, while front claws extended out as the tense feline faced the window pane. Both she and the woman listened to the discernible, horrible howl that screeched so raucously long, one would think it could shatter glass. After it had finally faded in the winter wind, Summer's crazed heart rate was pulsating in her eardrums. Her chest heaved uncontrollably, and the woman had to sit on her bed so she wouldn't collapse onto the carpet. A hand shakily felt above her breasts, for not ever in the woman's life did she feel the eccentric combination of dread and expectation. Her vision was becoming fuzzy. The excited woman leaned over with elbows upon unsteady knees and hands cupping over her pale face. Her mouth tasted like the desert wasteland. She needed water. Summer's calves sensed light curdling. The tortoiseshell, now calmer, had trotted to her bedside, knowing very well that her owner was in more dire stress than she was. Remarkably, but not unexpected, Posey had eased her owner's scared and confused contemplations. The woman rewarded the feline with a stroke, and her hand received a gentle sandpaper lick in turn. Marilu was right. She sure as hell needed this cat. Smoothing her scalp, Summer's eyelids blinked rapidly as the epiphany washed over her. I've got to do this now. After 10 agonizing seasons and 9 years of preparation, tonight she would do her damnedest to undertake her mission. Closure of their sorrow. Summer gingerly got to her feet. Memorized in her mind, the woman was ready. Scared shitless, but nonetheless prepared as ever. She hurriedly turned the profusely streaming sink's faucet to run cold for a cup of water. Once her mouth didn't feel like evaporated cotton, the tap was turned off, and after redressing in her turtleneck, Summer sprinted out the double-doored bathroom and swiped the lock latch to the closet door in a small guest room. Posey had hopped upon the guest bed, with her tail tip swishing in perplexity from watching her hyperacting owner open the tiny den in which she was not allowed to explore or nap in. Not even once. Everything was hung and shelved in the little closet for this exact reason. Summer had learned everything possible about the source of that fucking hated howl. At first, Robert said the sound they first heard was from an angry cougar, but after Summer had dealt with the grief of losing Dante at the nursing home, Robert was extremely honest about what really expelled that blood-curdling bellow. It took almost a year to soak in all of what was discussed. However, when he played the recording of it 9 years ago, it had ignited Summer's insecure ember into a boiling blaze. And since then, the woman had become absolutely consumed with loathing it. The proof in the pudding was the downstairs study, where a cabinet and computer desk were stored and held nothing but uncountable books and files of her obsession. To say this woman was mad in both definitions wouldn't be far from an understatement. Summer shook a stored, well-insulated winter coat from its hanger, hastily putting it on. She removed a pair of fingerless gloves and a beanie from the single high shelf. Once her hands and head were covered, she re-inspected a supplied backpack, zippered it, and took it off the ledge. After pausing for a moment before pulling out a stool from the corner of the closet, the woman tippy-toed on the high footrest in order to move the concealed cover of the lower artificial ceiling department to the side, and stretched an arm in the cavity above. Then Summer separated 2 large items in her coat's wide pockets to feel more balanced. She had told Robert that she had bought them for protection, but she wasn't sure if he really believed her. But deep down he wanted this situated as much as she did. The woman grabbed a pair of insulated high boots, and inhaling quickly, she sat on the edge of the guest mattress, kicking off her slippers and putting on the winter footgear. Once fully dressed, she went to retrieve the backpack. As Summer lifted it up, she turned her sights to the dedicated feline, still respectively viewing her owner with a curious, concerned gaze. "I'll be back, Posey," she breathed as she switched the closet's latch to lock. "Promise." Summer slung the camo backpack's straps over her shoulders and dashed down the long stairway, yanked her keys from its hanger by the front door, and with a trembling hand grabbed the knob. And only several seconds after the heavy door closed with a perceptible click, a pair of gold eyes returned to peer through the dark window of the parlor, worriedly watching the winter-hating woman anxiously get into her Jeep as the first sign of fallen ice from the incoming storm began to fall. Summer Bree was freezing and terrified out of her mind, but she would do this. For him.